the 26th year since it was first held. Over the next half an hour here on Eurosport, we'll be packing in all the action and drama from a spectacular weekend's racing. 20,000 spectators have turned up in the shadow of Mont Blanc to watch this 19th running of the Chamonix event. 6 individual races being held Saturday afternoon into Saturday night and on Sunday as well. So not a true 24-hour race as such, but nevertheless there are 2 drivers for each car, and each of the 30-minute heats has to be shared between those 2 drivers. The best 5 scores from the 6 heats will then be counted together to turn out the eventual winner of this year's 1995 Chamonix 24 Hours. It's not part of the Andros Trophy, the ice racing we've been watching this year, and which has been dominated by François Chatriot and Danny Snowbeck in the Opel Astra. Well, they'll be trying to be beaten this time as well. They're joined by Michel Mouton and Christian Duchevin in the Opel team, but the mega team are out for revenge. François Chauche and Maurice Chaumard and Michel Ferté and Philippe Gache turning out for the French team. BMW out in force as well, Ivan Muller and Bertrand Ballas, and also Jean-Marc Gounon, the ex-Formula 1 driver, current trying to be Formula 1 car driver, and Jean-Louis Schlesser. In the Peugeot 306, Jean-Pierre Malchet, 5-times winner of this event, and Christophe Vaison. Jacques Lafitte in another of the Peugeots, with Paul Belmondo, another man from Formula 1. Marcel Tarrés and Marc Duez. Tarrés, the winner of the Serre Chevalier Andros Trophy event just last week. Yves Loubet and Eric Arpin in the Seat Cordoba head the rest of the favourites for this year's Chamonix 24-hour race. Well, let's get the first of the 6 heats underway then. On pole position, François Chatriot and Danny Snowbeck. It's Snowbeck at the wheel at the moment, but he's being passed by Marcel Tarrés in the BMW. So it's the BMW that has taken the most recent round of the Andros Trophy victory at Serre Chevalier. There's a bit of a contretemps at the first corner, but everybody just about managing to squeeze round. The Mega of François Chauche and Maurice Chaumard getting a little delayed through that, but up front it's Marcel Tarrés. Now you'll see that there are 2 people in each car. That's because journalists are accompanying the drivers throughout the course of the Chamonix races, and those journalists reporting back on TV and through the newspapers as well later in the week. We're on board with Christophe Duchevin, the man who is in fact a TV celebrity himself with the TF1 station in France, but no mean driver, as he's shown already on some of the Andros Trophy events and through his exploits on circuit. But let's look at this, he's getting himself into a bit of trouble there. So Duchevin losing some ground as Philippe Gache in the number 5 Mega squeezes through. And Duchevin in fact losing more time. I think it looks as though Jean-Luc Paillet also trying to get past him in the Citroën ZX. Well, Paillet already some damage to the front of his car. Can't quite go through at the moment. We're back on board Duchevin's car. Catherine Pic co-driving in the passenger seat. We've got yellow flags being waved as well. Looks like one of the Seats has gone off at the side of the track. Well, Duchevin trying to put in a good performance here at Chamonix. He's had a few good runs in the Andros Ice Racing Trophy so far this year, but trying to back up the performance of his teammates. Danny Snowbeck, he's in 2nd place at the moment in the other of the Opel Astras. And in fact now he's trying to go through. Marcel Tarrés is looking across, and there is Danny Snowbeck trying to squeeze past. He goes into the lead of the race. So the Opel is in the place that we've seen them throughout most of the Andros Trophy season this year, and here at Chamonix it doesn't seem to be much different. Oh, and there's another accident further back. A new car to ice racing, the Fiat Coupe there of Marco Gatta, entered by the Pininfarina team, and the Coupe in trouble, the front bodywork being ripped off in that accident as well. And also collecting him was Jacques Lafitte in the Peugeot 306. So the lead of the race now, Danny Snowbeck. He's really pulled away from Marcel Tarrés in 2nd place. In 3rd possession is Ivan Muller in the BMW. Now, we've got 2 BMWs. There's the number 14 car of Tarrés and another BMW in trouble. That's the car of Jean-Louis Schlesser and Marc Gounon. So suspension damage to that car, and well, Jean-Louis Schlesser at the wheel at the moment. The former sports car world champion in trouble, and Duchevin in trouble as well. Well, we saw him having a bit of contact with some of the snowbanks earlier in the race, and it looks as though slightly more damage has been done to the car now. So let's go back to what's happened to the leaders. In fact, there's been a change to 2nd place, because number 7 BMW of Ivan Muller now is in 2nd place. That means he's moved ahead of the other BMW of Marcel Tarrés. Now remember, Muller is driving the official Works BMW, if you like, being run by the Arica team, the same team that runs BMWs in the French Touring Car Championship. And Marcel Tarras in third place, the number 14 car there, the Primegaz sponsored car. That's a car that he's put together himself with BMW power, but very much a car that he's engineered and prepared himself in just 2.5 months. And they've done a superb job sharing the car with the very experienced Belgian Marc Duez. Well, there's the damage to the other of the Opels, and we're into the driver changes now. There is a 5-minute period throughout the middle of the race where driver changes must be made for the teams, and the first one to make their change was Jacques Lafitte coming in to swap over. Also going into the pits is the Fiat Coupe. We go on board the Seat Cordoba of Pier Cesar Baroni, former European rallycross or rally champion, and he's being chased by Philip Vonberg. Vonberg in the 2-litre category, although that Peugeot actually powered by a 1.1-litre turbocharged engine, but that equates to the same as the 2-litre category. Well, now in fact he's right behind Jean-Marc Gounon. We're on board with Jean-Marc Gounon in the BMW, and he's got some problems with that car. Certainly not running as well as it should do. Smoke coming from the exhaust, but still attacking hard. Gounon, who drove for the Simtek Formula 1 team during 1994, also recently became a father.
Alors on continue. Deuxième, mais pas là.
But no time to worry about that at the moment. He's trying to get the most out of this BMW here at Chamonix. Still problems with that car. The other of the Peugeots into the pits. Well, in fact, this is Lafitte's car, so he's leaping out, and Paul Belmondo is getting in. It was the other car of Jean-Pierre Malchet that we saw in the pits a moment ago, and he swapped over to let Christophe Faison get in. And this is the Ford Escort Cosworth, Patrick Tambay and Patrick Hebert sharing this car. Tambay leaping out, and Eurosport commentator Jean-Luc Roy also in the car as passenger, and he'll be reporting on his experiences with some onboard cameras on our Motors program this Wednesday, so watch out for some excellent pictures from the onboard camera there. Bertrand Ballas climbing out of his BMW, and the leader into the pits as well. So Danny Snowbeck now swapping over to allow Francois Chatriot into the number 1 car. These two won the Chamonix event last year. It's the first time that Danny Snowbeck had managed to win the Chamonix 24 Hours in all his many years of ice racing and 2 Andros Trophy titles. He'd never managed to win this main event in the past, but in 1994 he took his first victory. And this year, well, he started off well. They're still leading this first heat, remember, first of 6 heats. Points for each of the heats. The best 5 scores to count to give us the overall winner at the end of the weekend. So Francois Chatriot, Le Chat, the very experienced French rally driver, now takes that Opel out. We're back on board with Jean-Marc Gounon. It looks as though that rear suspension has collapsed now on his BMW. Look at that, the rear bodywork is really grinding its way through on that rear tyre. More and more troubles for the Arica Run car, but no such problems for the Danny Snowbeck team. Snowbeck, not only the driver, but also the man behind the design of this car, responsible for its preparation. And you'll notice that here at Chamonix, a slightly different rule exists. If you've been watching closely, you'll see that the rear wheels are not actually involved in steering the cars. Well, the checkered flag is out, and the win for Francois Chatriot. So he takes the first of the heats here at Chamonix with 5 more to go. But that's an excellent start to his weekend's campaign. Marcel Tarras coming through in 2nd position in the BMW, and the 3rd place going to Jean-Pierre Malchet. In fact, in the background there, the other cars are lapped down, so Malchet in the Peugeot taking 3rd position. So the Flymo sponsored car going well, but poor Jean-Marc Gounon having a few troubles getting the number 8 BMW through to the finish. So an excellent start for Danny Snowbeck and Francois Chatriot, starting from pole and taking the first win with 120 points to their credit for taking the victory. 108 points go to Marcel Tarras and Marc Duez, and 100 points to Jean-Pierre Malchet and Christophe Faison. That sets up the competition. We look forward to the rest of the heats. 5 more races to come, and we'll have them after this break. We go into the night heats now, Saturday night, and the next of the races that score the points to bring us an overall victor in the Chamonix 24-hour race. Well, the conditions not so good. It's been raining throughout Saturday, and the ice has really all but disappeared from the circuit now. So it's not turned into ice racing, it's turned into perhaps a form of rallycross. Still having to use the Pirelli studded tyre though, so they won't be getting an awful lot of grip, so they'll still be sliding around. Well, the second race, and starting from pole position once again with their win after that first race, Danny Snowbeck and Francois Chatriot's Opel Astra. Just look at the conditions though, a lot of standing water around, and in fact the second Opel getting caught out there and into the snowbank on the start of the race. Well, in fact, the race would go very much the way of Chatriot and Snowbeck once again. Once they'd got out in front of their opposition, they managed to hold it all the way. This, in fact, is the driver change that occurred halfway through the race. Time for a quick swap, and then back out again for Francois Chatriot, making it look all very easy indeed. And the Megas and BMWs really unable to provide an effective challenge here at the moment. So Chatriot and Snowbeck coming through to take their second straight win, another 120 points to add to their tally, and an absolutely perfect way to start off the weekend. Well, between that race and the next, which was to be held just after midnight, only 20 minutes for the mechanics to refettle the cars and get them ready. Some of the racing had already been fairly physical, and it wasn't to get any easier throughout the course of the weekend either. On to race 3 then, and Chatriot and Snowbeck's car on pole position once again. Heading off into the darkness, and everybody else trying to force their way through, but then an accident just after the start with several cars involved. Jean-Louis Schlesser's car was in there, Lafitte's car, and in fact the Peugeot, the Flymo sponsored Peugeot of Jacques Lafitte and Paul Belmondo, so badly damaged in this accident that it was finished. Out for the rest of the weekend, and bad luck for them. Well, on to the restart of the race then. Once again, it's that Opel Astra setting off ahead of everybody else and really not giving anybody else a chance. Jean-Marc Gounod having some problems, and it really wasn't proving to be his weekend. More for the Orica team at this point either. Bertrand Ballas had already suffered a fire during Friday's qualifying sessions and had burnt his face slightly as well. Well, coming through to win this race, Snowbeck and Chatriot again. And Snowbeck saying, well, he's very happy with the way things are going. He said he was a bit afraid of the 2 runs at night. Very challenging. He says, well, we haven't won yet, but it's all going very well with 3 successes. So we asked him about his tactics for the Sunday, and he said, well, as you can see, things have been getting a bit exciting. In fact, we had to start the last race under a yellow flag to keep things under control. So when you're in the car, we've got to be careful. You've got to try to win as well. If you slow down too much, then you don't end up concentrating.
S'il faut lever, on se déconcentre. Donc autant rouler en essayant de rouler comme on a roulé là.
Bon, très bien, bravo et reposez-vous bien.
Merci beaucoup.
Well, Snowbeck certainly looking good for the next day. 360 points after the 3 heats so far. Maximum score for him and Francois Chatriot. Second place, Marcel Tarez with 324 points, sharing that car with Marc Duez. And in third place on 248 points at this point in the weekend, Jean-Luc Paillet. On to Sunday morning then, and the 10:30 start for the 4th heat of the weekend. 3 more races to be held, and the opportunity perhaps for Snowbeck and Chatriot to try and take their second win at Chamonix in 2 years. BMW have the best record here, but for Bertrand Ballas, with cream on his face to protect from where he'd burnt himself in that fire on Friday's qualifying session, the BMW challenge was not going quite as well as he had hoped. On to the 4th race then, and Francois Chatriot and Danny Snowbeck, with Snowbeck in the car to start off with, setting off from that pole position, and Jean-Luc Paillet forcing his way up into second place, but not for long, because Marcel Tarez was soon to take that second place back again. Some bumping and boring going on at the first corner. But once again, that Opel beginning to disappear up front. All 4-wheel drive cars, remember, the Opel Astra powered by the V6 engine, which is mounted in front of the drivers, but centrally mounted and pushed quite a long way back to try and get the weight distribution as perfect as possible. And all of the cars, as I mentioned earlier, running with out their four-wheel steer systems, meaning that they just have the front wheels to steer by, and of course that changes the setup of the cars for this type of racing. They're a chance to see the narrow studded tyres that are used in this form of ice racing, and also a chance to watch Michèle Mouton buckle into her Opel Astra as Christophe Dechavanne clambers out after having completed the first part of the race. On board with Michèle Mouton, opportunity to see her in action. And the former top-class world rally driver now enjoying her ice racing and giving us a demonstration of left-foot braking as well. Mouton and Dechavanne not having quite as good a weekend as their teammates Snowbeck and Chatriot, and also not having quite such a good weekend Henri Leconte in the number 18 car out of this race. For Snowbeck and Chatriot, though, it was to be yet another full score. Checkered flag coming out, taking the victory once again, with Ivan Muller and Bertrand Ballas taking second place on this occasion and managing to beat Marcel Tarez and Marc Duez. Still, of course, a very healthy lead for Snowbeck and Chatriot, though, in the points. 480 points now to 424 points for Tarez and Duez. Really, Snowbeck and Chatriot were looking good for the title of Chamonix 24 Hours winner 1995 if they could just get one more good result. The top 5 results counting, 4 races completed and 4 wins. Can anybody stop Snowbeck and Chatriot? We'll find out right after this next break here on Eurosport. The 5th race of the Chamonix 24-hour race coming up now, and this race being run the other way round. They run 2 of the races the other way round over the course of the weekend, and this in the opposite direction now, so the cars having to a certain extent relearn the track, although they did run the second race this way round during the Saturday night as well. But once again, it's no change in the positions of the cars, because once again it's Snowbeck's and Chatriot's Opel Astra that has taken the early lead. Well, they've had a very good season in Andros Trophy racing so far this year, and although this doesn't count to points in the Andros Trophy, it does look very likely that Francois Chatriot is going to take the title in 94-95, and it'll be his first Andros title. We'll be able to watch the forthcoming race in the Andros Trophy here on Eurosport with just that one more race to go. It looks as though Chatriot should be able to do it, but the battle here at Chamonix now really becoming a battle for second place and third in the point standings. The Megas, once again, a little disappointing. They're the number 4 car of Francois Schoch and Maurice Schoma, but suddenly problems for the BMW of Ivan Muller. This car, which also been driven by Bertrand Ballas, suddenly going up in smoke, basically the same as had happened on the Friday practice. And as Dechavanne also having problems with the number 2 Opel Astra, the fire began to really blaze away. 2 laps of racing continued while the car gradually caught fire. They did put the red flags out eventually, but by then the BMW was a complete wreck. Bertrand Ballas showing evidence of the burn from the Friday. Ivan Muller was thankfully able to get out of the car pretty much straight away and was relatively unhurt. But a sad way for the BMW to meet its end. And the start of the race once again. The race restarted. It had only run for 4.5 minutes when the BMW caught fire, so they decided to try and restart this 5th heat. Tarez and Duez fighting for points there in 3rd place, as coming up into 2nd place, the Mega of Schoch and Schoma. Francois Schoch, the winner of the Andros Trophy last year, but they haven't really got the Megas working well during 94-95. But all of a sudden, in this restarted race, the red flags coming out once again. There'd been a major accident a little further round the circuit, which had virtually blocked it completely. So the red flag coming out, but that wasn't the end of the dramas, because not everybody was able to see the red flag as it came out. Jean-Luc Paillet slowing down, but there were 1 or 2 other cars that didn't manage to slow down very well. Philippe Gache remonstrating with Patrick Tambay and Jean-Luc Roy, our Eurosport commentator, asking why on earth they'd hit the back of his car. Well, in fact, the reason was that they hadn't seen the red flags at all. Confusion reigned as they all tried to sort themselves out. we got a chance to speak to some of the drivers. Patrick Tombe saying, well, I came into the hairpin. Philippe Gache in front of me. He seemed to have a problem with his steering. I wanted to overtake him on the right, but then he came across, and well, we just sort of crashed into each other. And Gache says, I was in fact, by then I was in front, and I saw the red flag, and of course I braked to slow down. He crashed into the back of me. Obviously he didn't see the flag. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to repair the car. It really is quite badly damaged. Well, he thought it was finished for him, but in fact he was able to get the car back out once again. The Mega Mechanics do a superb job to rebuild the car and get it out for the 6th and final race. Well, in fact, with the victory in that 5th race, it was classified after just 4.5 minutes. Snowbeck and Chatriot already confirmed as the winners of the Chamonix event. Their best 5 scores were 5 wins. So a remarkable performance, a maximum score, but still the question was, could they continue the clean sweep and take victory in the last and final heat, the 6th heat of the Chamonix 24-hour race? Well, then once again they were out in front, in fact, and it was Marcel Tarrés and Marc Duez holding on to 2nd place, trying to fight off the attentions of Jean-Luc Paillet. Paillet well up in the overall points, having scored consistently throughout the course of the weekend, although not actually managing to get anywhere near Snowbeck and Chatriot's Astra. But watch out for the number 5 car. Philippe Gache, the man who was in that accident just a bit earlier, was looking very aggressive indeed in his attempts to try and move up a few places, fighting his way past Jean-Luc Paillet, going around the outside into the corner leading up to the start-finish line once again. And they're beginning to attack the BMW as well, using the snowbanks at the side to squeeze past. And Philippe Gache was taking no prisoners in his attempt to go chasing after Chatriot and Snowbeck's Astra up front. Well, certainly an excellent drive from those two, but it wasn't going to be enough. Tarrés and Duez were in some trouble with their BMW, and they let a few go past, but the checker flag was out once again, and once again it was a total dominant performance from Chatriot and Snowbeck. Coming through in 2nd place, Francois Choche and Maurice Choma in the Mega, and 3rd Teferte and Gache. But the winners for the 2nd year in succession, Danny Snowbeck and Francois Chatriot. Superb performance, a maximum score, and really showing everybody that the Opel team is the team to beat in 94-95 ice racing season, and they'll go through to the next race, the final round of the Andros Trophy, in a very confident frame of mind. Well, Philippe Bomberg won the 2-litre category in his Peugeot 205 T16. The Peugeots retired early with their engine problems and damaged cars, and trying to protect them for that last remaining round of the Andros Trophy. Well, you'll be able to see that here on Eurosport, and watch out for Motors on Wednesday at 11 o'clock in Europe and 10 o'clock in the UK, where we'll be taking a more detailed look at the Chamonix 24-hour race with some great onboard footage as well, and some interviews with the drivers. Hope you can join us then from the Chamonix 24-hour race from now and from Ben Edwards. Goodbye.